Hello students. Now let us start with the second part of the nervous system, in which we are going to learn about the human ear. Our human ear has two functions, such as it helps in hearing, followed by balancing the body. So thus you can say that the ear performs two functions, such as hearing followed by balancing our body. The ear can be divided into three parts, such as outer ear, middle ear and inner ear. Now let us start with the outer ear. The outer ear comprises three parts. So the first part of the outer ear is the projecting part made up of cartilage, which collects the sound waves, and this projecting part is known as pinna, which is also named as auricle of the ear or auricle of the outer ear. Children, if you remember, we have learnt even the same word with respect to the human heart. Okay, so this pinna continues, or it leads to a passage, and the passage is known as auditory canal. So thus the sound waves which are collected by the pinna passes into the auditory canal. In the inner lining of the auditory canal, we find the glands which secrete earwax, which is also known as a cerumen. So thus you can say that the cerumen is secreted by the glands known as a ceruminous glands, which are found in the inner lining of the auditory canal, due to which the dust particles or the germs which enter into the auditory canal are trapped by the cerumen, which does not allow the entry of these particles followed by germs into the other parts of the human ear. So at the end of the auditory canal, we find a membrane. We find a membrane, and the membrane, which is very thin, and this membrane, what do we call commonly as a eardrum, or known as a tympanum. Okay, so we find the eardrum at the end of the auditory canal. So thus you can say that the outer ear comprises three parts, such as pinna, auditory canal followed by tympanum. Now let us start with the middle ear. The middle ear comprises three smaller bones, and those three smaller bones are named as ear ossicles. And these three smaller bones are known as Malleus, which is the first ear ossicle, followed by incus and stapes. So Malleus, incus and stapes are the biological terms or the scientific terms of these ear ossicles. And these ear ossicles also have a common terms. So Malleus, which is also called hammer, the incus is called anvil, followed by stape is also known as stirrup. So thus you can say that what I have written using a green sketch represents the biological terms. What I have written using a red sketch is the common terms. But in case if they ask you a question in the objective type based on the ear ossicle, you should always write the scientific terms but not the common terms. Now let us learn about these three ear ossicles. The first one, Malleus. The Malleus has a handle-like structure, and at the end of the handle there is a head-like structure. So you can say that it has a handle. This is the handle followed by a head-like structure, and handle of the Malleus is attached to the inner surface of the tympanum. So if you look at the tympanum has two surfaces. So the surface which is facing the auditory canal can be named as a outer surface, and the surface which is facing the Malleus can be named as a inner surface. So thus you can say that the handle of the Malleus is attached to the inner surface of the tympanum. Okay, then we find the second ear ossicle, that is a incus. So the head of the Malleus is attached to the incus. Okay, so second ear ossicle known as a incus, and the first one is the Malleus. Fine. So thus you can say that each ear ossicle is attached to the one another. And the third ear ossicle is known as a stapes, which has a head-like structure along with the base-like structure. The base is actually a flat part. Okay, so this is the third ear ossicle, and what do we call this as a stapes. So thus you can say that in the middle ear we find three ear ossicles known as a Malleus, incus and stapes, which are attached to each other from one end to the other end. Okay, now the flat portion of the stapes is attached to one more membrane. It is attached to one more membrane. Okay, one more opening which is covered by a membrane. This opening which is covered by a membrane, we name it as a oval window. So what do we name it as a? We name it as a oval window. So what is the oval window? The base of the stapes is attached to the opening known as a oval window, which is covered by a thin membrane. Okay, So at the base of the oval window, we find even one more structure, which is again a opening covered by a thin membrane, and since it is round in shape, we call this window as we name it as a round window. So what do we name it as? A round window. So thus you can say that the base of the or a flat portion of the stapes is attached to an opening known as a oval window, which is covered by a thin membrane. Just at the base of the oval window, there is one more window known as a round window, and if you look at the shape of the window, it is round in its shape, hence known as a round window, and this is oval in shape, known as a oval window. Okay, now thus you can say that the middle ear comprises all these structures known as a 3 ear ossicles followed by 2 windows known as a oval window followed by the round window. Along with these structures, we find one more structure. We find one more tube or a passage, which actually connects our middle ear. So this is the middle ear, which actually connects the middle ear to the throat. So you can say that. So this is a passage or a tube-like structure which connects our middle ear to the throat. And what do we call this structure as? This structure is known as a Eustachian tube. So what is a Eustachian tube? It is a tube-like structure that connects the middle ear to the throat. So in case if they ask you about the location of a Eustachian tube, so the location of a Eustachian tube is it connects the middle ear to the throat. Okay, so these are the structures found in the middle ear. Now let us start with the inner ear. The inner ear comprises two main parts. So the inner ear is also known as Membranous Labyrinth. So what is the other name for a inner ear? The inner ear is also known as a Membranous Labyrinth. So thus you can say that the membranous labyrinth comprises two main parts. So what are those two main parts? It comprises two structures known as a semicircular canals, followed by cochlea. So it comprises semicircular canals along with cochlea. Now let us learn about the semicircular canals. So in the upper portion of the membranous labyrinth, we find three semicircular canals which are at right angles to each other. So in the inner ear, we find three canals which are semicircular in their shape, known as a semicircular canals which are at right angles to each other. Now what is the meaning of right angles to each other? Children, if you look at this 3 sketch pens, okay, if you just observe, in this case, okay, these 3 semicirculars are in such a way that how they are arranged in such a way that one of them is horizontal and 2 are vertical. So one of the semicircular canal is horizontally placed and the other 2 are vertically placed. Okay, so each one is at right angle to the other semicircular canal. Fine. So thus I said all the 3 semicircular canals are at the right angles to each other. Okay, in which one of them is horizontal and the other 2 are vertical. Fine. The end of these or the bases of these semicircular canals are enlarged. So you can say that this is the base. So the bases of these semicircular canals are widened or enlarged. So these widened structures are known as ampulla. So ampulla is the singular form, ampullae is the plural form. So what do you mean by ampullae? Ampullae are nothing but the widened structures found at the bases of these semicircular canals. Okay, so at the base of these semicircular canals we find a small or a short stem. We find a short stem like structure, and this short stem like structure, the first, you can see it's the first widened portion. The first widened portion is known as a utriculus. Okay, the second expanded or a bulb like structure is known as a sacculus. So thus you can say that at the basis of these ampullae or just below this ampullae we find 2 bulb like structures or the expanded parts. The first part which is expanded is known as a utriculus and the second one is known as a sacculus, and these 2 are collectively called as vestibule. So what do we name it as? Vestibule. So the inner ear or the membranous labyrinth comprises the semicircular canals along with the ampullae at their bases, and at the bases of these ampullae we find 2 bulb-like structures known as a utriculus followed by sacculus, which is collectively known as a vestibule. Okay children, along with that we find one more structure, the one more structure known as a cochlea. So we find this cochlea, okay, which is a spiral organ. What is the meaning of a spiral organ? You can say it is a highly twisted organ. It is a highly twisted organ which looks like a shell of the snail. So if you observe the snail, just on the top of the snail you find a shell on its topmost portion. So you can compare the shell of a snail, okay, to the cochlea. So cochlea is a spiral organ found in the inner ear. So this cochlea has a 2.5 turns. It has a 2.5 turn. So this is 1, 2, followed by half. So thus you can say that Cochlea is a spiral organ, okay, containing 2.5 turns. So it is a highly twisted structure which has a 2.5 turns. So what is the location of cochlea? We find the cochlea in the inner ear at the base of vestibule. Okay. What is the location of the vestibule? So vestibule is a short stem. So it is a short stem which connects the bases, which connects the ampullae to the cochlea, or you can say that it connects the bases of semicircular canals to the cochlea. Now let us learn about the cochlea. I have just taken a small section of the cochlea. So let us study what do we find in the internal structure of this cochlea. Cochlea internally has 3 canals which are parallel to each other. It has 3 canals which are parallel to each other, which are separated by membranes. So we can name or we can number it as 1. This is the second one, followed by third one. So internally the cochlea has a 3 parallelly arranged canals. Okay, 3 parallelly arranged canals which are separated by the membranes. Fine. So these canals are filled with the fluid. These canals are filled with the fluid. So in the median canal, so we call this middle canal as a median canal. So we name it as a median canal, which is filled with the fluid. And what is the name of the fluid? The fluid is known as a Endo Lymph. It is known as a Endo Lymph. In the same way, the other 2 canals which are found on the outer side, so we call these canals which are found on the outer side, and these canals are filled with the liquid known as a perilymph. So you can name it as a peripheral canals which are filled with the perilymph. Peri means which is on the margins or on the outer side. So thus you can say that the median canal is filled with the endolymph and the peripheral canals are filled with the perilymph. So thus internally the cochlea has 3 parallelly arranged canals filled with the fluids, and especially in the median canal. On the basilar membrane of the median canal. So this is the membrane which is found at the base, and we call this membrane as we name it as a basilar membrane. Okay children, so on the basilar membrane we find the specialized sensory cells, remember, which are nothing but the receptors. So on the basilar membrane of the median canal, okay, in the cochlea we find a specialized nerve cells. We find the specialized nerve cells, and these specialized nerve cells, okay, so these specialized nerve cells are known as organ of Corti. So what is the meaning of a organ of Corti? Organ of Corti, it's nothing but specialized nerve cells or specialized sensory cells which are found on the basilar membrane of the median canal in the cochlea. So these specialized sensory cells are known as a organ of Corti. Okay, children. So these are the three different parts of the ear known as outer ear, middle ear, followed by inner ear. So what is the other name for a inner ear? That is known as a membranous labyrinth. Okay, now let us quickly recall the locations of all the parts of the human ear before we could learn about the functions. Yes, children, we know that the outer ear comprises pinna, followed by auditory canal and eardrum. So what is the location of the auditory canal? Auditory canal is found between the pinna and eardrum. Location of eardrum, it is found in between the auditory canal and malleus. Okay, then location of a malleus, it is found in between the eardrum followed by incus. We find the incus in between the malleus and the stapes. Then the location of stapes, it is found in between the incus and oval window. Location of oval window, it is found in between the stapes and the inner ear. Okay, children. And then Eustachian tube, location is, it connects the middle ear to the throat. And then the location of semicircular canals, it is found in the inner ear above the vestibule. Location of ampulla, ampullae are the widened parts found at the basis of these semicircular canals in the inner ear. Location of a vestibule, it is a short stem which connects the basis of semicircular canals to the cochlea. Location of cochlea, it is found in the inner ear at the base of the vestibule. So in the cochlea we find the organ of Corti. What is the location of an organ of Corti? It is found on the basilar membrane in the median canal of the cochlea in the inner ear. Children, one more thing. In order to remember the common terms and the scientific terms, I'll just give you a clue. You can just remember the three letters, that is Miss, okay, M malleus, I stands for incus, S stapes, followed by, you can also just have these three letters, that is has, H hammer, A anvil, followed by S stirrup. Okay, yes children. So in the next video we will learn about the functions of the human ear. Learn thoroughly from the textbook.